So we all killed a predator. This has gone horribly wrong. Yeah. So one of the things which I already heard about, I've already seen a bit about this. So like Goofy, I spoil myself all the time. It's not. It's just a thing. I don't mind spoiling myself. I'm fine with it. Um, I just like his videos. But one of the things that was on there was a thing where it was like being with this being if someone survives, they keep them for another thing because this whole thing is about three people who defeated at several points in time predators, becoming the killers of killers. Number one is a Viking. Number two is a samurai, and number three is a World War II pilot. Which I don't know. They don't mention it, but I feel like that would be a little bit complicated feelings. Um, I don't know actually. Because I think he's American. Um, but let's actually talk about that. So, but first, because this is sort of split up into what I think it is not a three-act structure, it's sort of a four-act structure. Story one, story two, story three, and story four. With each one of the stories being not that long. It's like a short story in and of itself, which builds into a bigger story that is in the fourth one. I will talk about some of the stuff later. I love that they talked into, but the first part is the Vikings, which I do like. That story is very much of like the battle aggressiveness of it, sort of dealing with an army, because each one of the battles deals with a different, I would say, situation of combat. And even though you do have a similar situation in the play, and I'll talk about that when I get to it, you sort of deal with a sort of invading force going into battle, fighting, which is really fun. Definitely some of the tricks, definitely the things that we did, which is basically with the ice, which I do like. I also like the idea that you see one character when they finish, you see them at the end of their story, and it sort of fades out the sort of like them being in their time period and them being in this sort of present entertainment with a sort of like thing around their necks, which then eventually leads to sort of a situation where you look a bit to, because you see the Vikings sit down, you see the camera zoom in, and you see someone meditating, which is, I think, a samurai or samurai. I don't fully know. I've called him a samurai, but he was very sneaky, which would be more ninjas. But I don't know the difference, so I'm going to be very, I don't know. So, but someone in the Japanese era, I don't know which one specific. Vikings is kind of like long ago, and it's like you kind of can get it's in that sort of like time period. I know there's a year on the screen, but I more meant where it is in taking place in history overall, because I don't know what happened during that time period. So it's not. I don't know. I don't 100% remember the year, but my problem is more. I don't know what was happening around this time period. The Vikings were the Vikings, which impacted England quite a bit sometimes because they interacted with the UK and were a big part of the UK history. And one just World War Two, so that impacted literally everyone. But I don't know when the Japanese what happened during the Japanese time, especially in Japan at the time. So I don't 100% know. But it was essentially an assassination, which I think is interesting because compared to the other two, which is this one's still in combat, but it starts off with one person trying to sneak in, while the other two are still being either aggressively attacking a place or trying to defend a place, which I think is a fun idea. with one being a sneaky one. And again, I like the transition. I like this, which then leads to the first story, which is this sort of like, which I also like the difference between, because each one of them has a sort of difference. The Viking was sort of a leader and a commander of sorts. So she had not he. Why do I say he? She had a sort of commanding presence. While the other two were more either lone or sort of like rookies of the group. Like, whilst the second one was more of a sneaking mission, while the other two were in somewhat active combat at the time. And the last one, legitimately, is the only one which is using what you would be like um, flying and aircraft attacks, which is, I think, clever. I also think it's a bit sad because you can't have a plane. I'm pretty sure a plane versus an axe and sword, I know who will win that fight. It's called the plane. Shockingly enough, if I stay in the sky and shoot at you, eventually I will hit you with either a bullet or the plane. Or worst case scenario, I have some bombs. So yeah, maybe you can be clever, but I think it would be. I also like his one being as they slowly get more into the future. Also, I don't know how the tech works because realistically, I don't think you can keep a body from that long. I know there's a whole game theory about like people in the ice can stay for a long period of time, but I'm pretty sure you can't keep the body for that long. But they have alien tech. I'm not gonna be like, well, this is unrealistic because you can't keep alien tech. They're aliens. I'm not gonna come here being like, well, the technology isn't accurate. It's like, that's boring. I just wanted to point it out because it's really interesting. I also like one of the things because they didn't point out the other thing, which you could make the argument that realistically, this is not the right time, and also because one person had an argument that doesn't mean the other person can be like, I'm going to blame the entire country. So it's fair. It's a mix of like, I'm not blaming the country because I think it's World War II that they have those sort of things. And we played with Charlton, which was definitely like a 1930s song, which is way after, which is like. Let me actually just double check that song. No, that's not it. Oh, okay, it's none of those. Which I think is a fun idea, and them trying to come together and then leave, I also think is interesting. They got recaptured, but I think overall the idea of people who have killed predators and them being like, we're going to collect them, and eventually we will kill them, is a type that I think is so inhumanly alien. It is clever. That horror. So yeah, it is really cool because again, it's the people who have killed the predators. Because we've seen people who are able to outlive and live in the movies. Again, some of these are examples of the ones in this. That one, not that one. That's aliens. These two, where you survive, you also see this character in Aliens. Spoiler about that's not really important. It's not really a spoiler thing, but that is the funnest part. So yeah. Crown of Candy, season 1. Let's talk about this. Is going to be so fun. I love this. There's a lot of stuff that's coming up soon. I'll bring it up, but I hope you enjoy. I hope you like. Sorry for this being long. I kind of like this. I might do another one on this a bit about each one of the three stories, which I'd love to do. So actually definitely doing that.